You see the screen share, or you see Zoom?
Yes, Prabhu. I'm seeing the Zoom. Yeah, now I can see the database.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining and doing the Seva Prabhu. Starting the class out. Very appreciated. Be reading from 1:15:32 today. Should I start? Yeah, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu. We can start.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Gyam Trimadandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya. Chakshuramritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Swapitam Yena Bhutale. Ayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Swahabadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Suyuta Parakamanam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha. Shri Rupam Sahagrijatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vidam. Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam. Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha. Om Aya Krishna Panastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Veda Visheshna Sunyavadi Nasatya Shatarini Anshakarapatrubhyascha Kripasindhu Vaevacha Titanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank the mercy of our Guru Parampara, Guru Janas, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I may speak something relevant and inspiring to our hearts to hold shelter the lotus feet, the holy name, our Guru's, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. Begging at the feet of the Vaishnavas is our life and soul. So, begging at all the assembled devotees on the call or in this meeting and who will be watching anytime later. One Chakravapatrubhyascha, Paripasindhu Vayevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. 1:15:32. Juna just finished explaining all of the things he found out in Arka, and now he's Yudhisthira Maharaj, and we will hear what Yudhisthira Maharaj's heart is now being set on. Nismamya Bhagavan Margam Samstam Yadu Kurasya Cha Swapataya Mati Chakre Ye Pritatma Yudhisthira Nishama Bhagavan Margam Samstam Yadukurasya Cha Svapatyaya Matim Chakri Britatma Yudhisthira Nishamya Bhagavan Margam Samstam Yadukurasya Cha Svapataya Matim Chakri Nibritatma Yudhisthira. Want to chant a verse, Prabhu? Or anybody else who joined?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I can try, Prabhu. Nisamya Bhagavan Margam Samstam Yadukulasya Cha Swapataya Madim Chakre Nibratma Yudhishthiraha. Thank you, Prabhu.
Very nice, Prabhu. You say you try and you do it expert.
Your inspiration, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Anybody else?
I can try, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Nishamya Bhagavan Margam Samstam Yadu Kuleshya Cha Swapataya Matim Chakre Nibartatma Yudhishthiraha. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Shamya Bhagavan Margam Samashtam Yadu Kulashcha Swaha Pataya Matam Chakre Ebritatma Yudhistharaha. Thank you.
Thanks, prabhuji. Anyone else? You do the word for word synonyms. Samya, deliberating. Bhagavat, regarding the Lord. Margam, the way of his appearance and disappearance. Samstam, and Yadu Kurasya of the dynasty of King Yadu. Cha, also. Swaha, the abode of the Lord. Pataya, on the way of. Matim, desire. Chakre, give attention. Nibrita Atma, alone, lonely and alone. Yudhisthira, King Yudhisthira. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Upon hearing of Lord Krishna's returning to his abode, and upon understanding the end of the Yadu dynasty's earthly manifestation, Maharaj Yudhisthira decided to go back home, back to Godhead. Report. Yudhisthira Maharaj Yudhisthira also turned his attention to the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita after hearing about the Lord's departure from the vision of earthly people. Turned his attention, referring to the previous verses where it's explained that Arjuna turned his consciousness from kind of being absorbed in the loss and of his power, of his ability, and of ultimately of the Lord, and turn it into the instructions he heard from Krishna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, which we have as Bhagavad Gita. So Srila Prabhupada's pointing out that point that Yudhishthira Maharaj is also turning to these instructions. He began to deliberate on the Lord's way of appearance and departure. The mission of the Lord's appearance and disappearance in the mortal universe is completely dependent on his supreme will. He's not forced to appear or disappear by any superior energy, as the living beings appear and disappear, being forced by the laws of nature. Whenever the Lord likes, he can appear himself from anywhere and everywhere without disturbing his appearance and disappearance in any other place. He is like the sun. The sun appears and disappears of its own accord at any place without disturbing its presence in other places. the sun appears in the morning in India without disappearance from the Western Hemisphere. The sun is present everywhere and anywhere, all over the solar system. But it also appears that in a particular place, the sun appears in the morning and also disappears in some fixed time in the evening. The time limitation, even of the sun, is of no concern. So what to speak of the Supreme Lord, who is controller and who is the creator and controller of the sun. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that anyone who factually understands the transcendental appearance and disappearance of the Lord by his inconceivable energy becomes liberated from the laws of birth and death, is placed in the eternal spiritual sky where the Vaikuntha planets are. There, such liberated persons can eternally live without the pangs of birth, death, old age, and disease. In the spiritual sky, the Lord and those who are eternally engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord are all eternally eternally young, because there is no old age and disease, and there is no death. Because there is no death, there is no birth. It is concluded, therefore, that simply by understanding the Lord's appearance and disappearance in truth, one can attain the perfectional stage of eternal life. Therefore, Maharaj Yudhisthira also began to consider going back to Godhead. The Lord appears on the earth or any other mortal planet along with his associates who live with him eternally, and the members of the Yadu family who are engaged in supplementing the pastimes of the Lord are no other than his eternal associates. And so also Maharaj Yudhisthira and his brothers and mother, etc. Since the appearance and disappearance of the Lord and his eternal associates are transcendental, no one should be bewildered by the external features of appearance and disappearance. Everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Upon hearing of Lord Krishna's returning to his abode and upon understanding the end of the Yadu dynasty's earthly manifestation, Maharaj Yudhisthira decided to go back home, back to Godhead. Gurave Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Tadavahi Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Thank you, everybody, for joining once again. Yudhisthira and the Pandavas are pure devotees, eternal associates, as Srila Prabhupada is bringing out. Their desire, they're going back home, back to Godhead. It's for service, not for relief of suffering. In the commentaries, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his commentary, he brings out two verses that kind of exemplify the absorption that the Pandavas have for the service of the Lord, Lord Krishna. 1:19:20. O chief, all the saintly kings of the Pandu dynasty were strictly in the line of Lord Krishna, Lord Sri Krishna. It is not at all astonishing that you gave up your throne, which is decorated with the helmets of many kings, to achieve eternal association with the personality of Godhead. This is glorifying Maharaj Parikshit, his dedication. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying not only Yudhisthira Maharaj, but all the Pandavas are in this absorption. We see the Srimad Bhagavatam is Maharaj Parikshit's absorption in hearing about Krishna in his different forms. 7 days, 7 nights, no water, no food, just absorbed in hearing. This is not This is not just ordinary. This is very high, high attachment for Krishna to be able to hear so much. Sometimes in 1 hour class, we start falling asleep in Srimad Bhagavatam. Devotees' eyes start closing. I don't know. I experience that sometimes. I don't know. All of you may be much better, but I've seen, over the years, devotees falling asleep, or when you hear classes, you hear the devotees who are giving class talk about, wake up. I've heard devotees sometimes would have spray bottles with them, and they, this is when we had live classes. Now we're not on live classes so much. So, but in live classes in the temple, they used to have a spray bottle, and we used to spray devotees, help keep them awake during class. But Maharaj Priksha didn't need that. He was absorbed, so much absorbed in Krishna. And he also speaks this verse. He splits the verse up, 5 and 6. He kind of splits them in half, but we'll read both of them. News 5. This is chapter 12, both from the first canto, chapter 19:20, and then chapter 12, verse 5 and 6. News even reached the celestial planets about Maharaj Yudhisthira's worldly possessions, the sacrifices by which he would attain a better destination, his queens, his stalwart brothers, his extensive land, his sovereignty over the earth planet, his fame, and etc. 6. O Brahmanas, the opulence of the king was so enchanting that the denizens of heaven aspired for it, but because he was absorbed in the service of the Lord, nothing could satisfy him except the Lord's service. This is what we need in our Krishna consciousness, this absorption, to be absorbed. This, in order to overcome the influence of the 3 modes of material nature, as this verse is bringing out, that it's actually the verse before it, that in Sukadeva Goswami or Sutta Goswami, I forget who's speaking at this time, but they're saying that they were freed from the 3 modes of material nature and placed in transcendence. Therefore, there's no chance of becoming entangled in birth and death. So Srila Prabhupada, he brought it out in the verse, in the purport again. But anyway, how we these 3 modes of material nature, when we overcome them, and we gain the ability to transcend this material world. But how do we do that? Krishna, Srila Prabhupada is explaining in this one verse. In this verse here, in the purport, he's bringing out one Bhagavad Gita verse. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gita, this verse he's bringing out, from what I understand, is this 4.9, at least the verse that I thought of. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So understanding the Lord's appearance and disappearance, Srila Prabhupada is bringing out this point that that by understanding this, then we become we can attain the Lord's abode. But how do we understand the appearance of the Lord, which is transcendental, the transcendental nature? Srila Prabhupada was bringing out that Krishna is not forced to appear or disappear like the living entities, who, by the influence of the modes of material nature and their desire of this and activities, we are building our next bodies. As Bhagavad Gita explains, what do we think about the time of death? That is what we attain. And by our different activities, we are building a new set of eyes, ears, tongue, body, this, that, and the other thing, all of these things that we have that engage us within the different senses, with the different modes and the different enjoyments that we have in this world. So, in order to understand the nature of the Lord's appearance and disappearance, we have to transcend these lower modes. But how do we do that? So how do we understand the Lord who appears to please his devotees, to extinguish, to destroy the demons? But we hear from the acharyas he doesn't really come to destroy the demons. I mean, yeah, he engages in some pastimes, that attracts the hearts of the living entities, but the modes of material nature, the time itself will take care of all that. But, to engage in some pastimes. But ultimately, he kills the demons, but ultimately he comes to please the devotees. So how do we understand his appearance and disappearance? How do we become transcendental? And one can understand the transcendental nature of the form, name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Krishna through his materially contaminated senses. Only when one becomes spiritually saturated by transcendental service to the Lord of the transcendental name, form, qualities, pastimes of the Lord revealed to him. Rupa Goswami is quoting this verse from what I remember from the Padma Purana. That becoming saturated or absorbed in the transcendental service of the Lord. Rupa Goswami is quoting this verse. It's within the different 64 items of devotional service. He's quoting the chanting of the holy name. Sri Krishna Nam Adi. So Srila Prabhupada's giving the Adi, the form, qualities, pastimes, the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord. So Ata Shri Krishna Nam Adi, by engaging, these seva and mukhe. So we have to engage in service. Srila Rupa Goswami, at the end of the explanation of the 64 items, he says, but these last, I think they're the last 5, if I remember correctly, are most excellent forms of devotional service. By the association of even just one of them can awaken prema bhakti in the heart. Something like that. Maturavas, Bhagavatam Shravan, Nam Kirtan, Krishna Bhakta Sangha, Murti Seva. By chanting the holy names of the Lord, Sankirtan. They must be free from the 10 offenses, though. We chant the holy names regularly in the association of pure devotees, avoiding the 10 offenses with care and attention, with absorption, with faith, and with priti, with love. when we can avoid these 10 offenses, and the holy name can give its most potent, um, what word to use, like it can influence our lives the best. It will purify the heart the most. Cheto darpanam marjanam. We become cleaned of what? Of these three modes, from the material designations. And what awakens? Our spiritual identity becomes realized. Cheto darpana marjanam, this cleansing process, Srila Prabhupada, the mirror of the heart. When the mirror of the heart is cleaned, the mirror reflects our true identity. We can understand our eternal constitutional position, as Srila Prabhupada would say, that our spiritual identity is revealed through the chanting of the holy name. This is the kind of, from what I've been told or heard, the deeper meaning of this reflection of the mirror, that little by little, the chitta, our spiritual understanding slowly gets chipped away. Not our spiritual understanding gets chipped away, but our material designations, the false ego, I am this body, the identification of this body slowly gets scrubbed away. The holy name appears within the heart and scrubs by their mercy. Cheto darpanam marjanam. Bhagavat Shravan, to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam with the Rasik devotees, he says this, he is the Rasik devotees, the devotees who have a taste for hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. We hear in their association, and all that is troublesome within the heart becomes almost completely destroyed. And we often chant this verse. I didn't chant it. I forgot to chant it. The second chapter, I think it's verse 17 and 18. Shrinvata svakata Krishna punya shavana kirtana Yantaho suyabhadrani savitsatam Ashtaprayesha babadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavate tumashloke bhaktiya bhavatina ishtaki. By hearing discussions on the Srimad Bhagavatam, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. Forget the rest of the translation. We have it in these little books, these little bhajan books. It's a very nice verse that we can learn so much. Sri Krishna, the personality, supreme personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, and which in themselves are virtuous when properly heard and chanted, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed in loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. This is how we should hear Srimad Bhagavatam, that we should come to the Srimad Bhagavatam, approach Srimad Bhagavatam, come to the classes with the desire to understand who is Krishna, to hear in such a way that I need this for my life and soul. If I don't hear properly, attentively, then my life is finished, right? You hear like Narottam Das Thakur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's songs, without Krishna's presence in their lives, it's like life's not worth living. So when we hear from devotees like this, when we hear in the association with such devotees, and it affects us. Association affects us. This is why it's so important that sadhu sangha is that we have sadhu sangha at every stage of our spiritual development, from shraddha to prema. Sadhu sangha is very important. To serve the deities with faith. We avoid the seva aparads. There's so many that are listed in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Srila Prabhupada also listed them in Nectar of Devotion. They're taken from various scriptures. I think Jiva Goswami elaborates on them in his commentary. So you can, if you're engaged in deity seva, then one should be conscious of avoiding these for our best interest, and to serve the deity for his pleasure. With faith, it says, with faith. So to live in Mathura, to live in the sadhu sangha, the association of Krishna bhaktas. There we chant the holy name and we hear Srimad Bhagavatam. And Mathura Vas, or to live in Vrindavan. And the Acharya says that if you can't physically live there, then you should live there in the mind. By always remembering Vrindavan. If you've been, you can remember the different pastime places that we went to. You can read Krishna book and Srimad Bhagavatam. Or if we're more advanced devotees, they can remember the Astakaliya Lila, the different eightfold pastimes throughout the 24 hours of the day that Krishna engages with his associates. So there's various ways we can remember Vrindavan. But it is to strive for the mood of Vrindavan, that our hearts are always absorbed in how we can please Krishna. So these different activities, that's 5 different activities that Rupa Goswami Pad, he says, are very potent, and we should engage in one or all of them to the best of our abilities. And this is important aspects of transcendental loving service, to be saturated in such transcendental loving service that all day that we can be chanting and hearing, remembering the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Krishna. Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita that one can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. When one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. He also says, one who engages in full devotional service, full consciousness of me, full devotional service, absorption, saturation. One who is engaged in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. One can enter the spiritual spiritual world, this spiritual realm, without being on the level of Brahman. And he's saying that one transcends the modes of material nature by full devotional service. So in some places it's said that when the devotee is in full devotional service, completely absorbed, the body is no longer material. It's beyond the modes of material nature. And this, from what I understand, is the prema stage. So someone like me has a very long way to go. It's all theoretical. But this is the path that we're on. Moving along the path to full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances. This point was, to me, popped out because so many challenges seem to distract me in my life of being as absorbed or fully engaged in devotional service as I'd like. So many challenges, problems with the body, with the mind. The list can go on and on and on with the problems that we have within this world. So many distractions, so many things that says, well, I can't surrender right now. I'll have to do it tomorrow. I'll have to do it later. When I'm older, or when I was younger, it would have been better, right? The grass is always greener on some other side until we get there, and then it's still greener on the other side. So with that type of attitude, the time never comes. There will never be an ideal situation for us to surrender. We have to surrender now, somehow or other, despite all challenges, despite all circumstances. We try our best. We continue in our bhajan and with our seva to please Guru, to please Krishna, that we hear, chant, remember as much as we can. And the more that we try, the more that we beg. We have to be beggars for mercy. The more that we're grateful for what Guru and Krishna has given us. And we just keep on keeping on. We keep hearing and chanting the best we can. And yeah, just keep going despite the challenges, despite the circumstances, unfailing in all circumstances. We just engage, and one day that time will come. We will transcend the modes of material nature, as is explained here. Srila Rupa Goswami says that the intention of the bhakta isn't liberation. He says in different places in Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu. So a question may arise why Yudhisthira Maharaj desires to go back to Godhead. So Srila Prabhupada in One Morning Walk gives a very enlightening understanding of what going home back to Godhead means. I have it here. We'll read through it. I don't think it's long. We have plenty of time, I think, but it's very, very nice. I'll just read it because it's nice to hear the kind of Srila Prabhupada's. He's talking about many things in this. You can see it's 45 minutes, the whole thing, but Starting from here where Pushta Krishna Prabhu is saying going back to Godhead can be sense gratification, because Srila Prabhupada is bringing out this fourth Shikshastika verse, Janmani Janmani, right? That life after life, I want to be engaged in your service. So he'll expand on that. So going back home, back to Godhead can be sense gratification. Srila Prabhupada said yes. That is also a contaminated desire. Otherwise, why Lord Chaitanya will say, Mama Janmani, to go. Krishna says, Yadgat va na nivartante tadham paramam. If one goes to Vaikuntha, he does not come. He doesn't come back. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also says he does not desire that. He is, let me remain perpetually here, but be engaged in your service. That is real. That is pure devotee. That is real devotee. That is pure devotee. He doesn't want even promotion. That is also mentioned. That is also mentioned now. Dhyamanam na grihanti. Srimad Bhagavatam 3:29-13. Dhyamanam. Even Krishna says, come immediately to Vaikuntha. Sir, that is for, just like Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj was offered, whatever you like, you take. Sir, do not make me a banya. But if someone wants, in exchange for service, he is not devotee, he's a banya. Guru Kripa says, a merchant? Yes, merchant. Nadanam najanamana sundarim kavitam vajvishakami Mama janmani janmani ishvare bhavatad bhaktirahiktu ki tvai. And we know this is Shikshastikam verse 4. This is prayer. No exchange. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says, Gita janma how datta to das. If you want that I shall continue, yes, that is all right. Continue in this world. If you want me to just continue here, that's okay. That is full surrender. And on condition. It said, meaning no condition. Sir, you'll take me to Vaikuntha, therefore I am surrendered. That is condition. Oh yeah, he's saying on condition. Okay, yeah. This is conditioned. This is a conditioned consciousness that if you take me to Vaikuntha, then I will surrender. Otherwise, I will not. He's saying this is banya. So Guru Kripa is saying actually going back home, back to Godhead means just back to devotional service. Yes, because a devotee is always in Vaikuntha. Asu sargunan samityantam brahma bhuyaya karpate. He is already in Vaikuntha. Why he shall for that Vaikuntha? He's not in this material world. Muktitanjali sevate samam. In Krishna Karnamrita, he is saying this before Mangala Thakur. That is called mukti. The mukti. Why shall I ask for mukti? Mukti is standing at my door. What shall I do, sir? Why shall I ask for mukti? It's said that when one becomes pure devotee, this is my little side note on this point, that if you haven't heard before, that that mukti comes standing at the door of the devotee, in front of the devotee. Oh, how can I serve you? Because through bhakti, mukti is automatically attained without any other separate endeavor, because bhakti purifies the heart in such an extent that the devotee is always, his consciousness is always in Vaikuntha, because they're free from the modes of material nature, free from the designations of this body, that their consciousness is so absorbed in the Lord that the body has actually become spiritualized. And that's why the spiritual master, when he goes and leaves the body, is put into samadhi, is not burned, because the body is spiritual. Anyway, getting back, Anyabilasita sunyam. First make all desire zero. That is the beginning of bhakti. Anyabilasita sunyam. Jnana karmadi anavritam anukulyena krishna nushinanam bhakti uttamam. So then the conversation starts going into another direction. Why you should desire anything. You say, why you desire to serve Krishna. And then he says, this is the desire, this is natural. So our natural position is to serve Krishna. This is where our consciousness is natural. Due to the association, as we all know, with matter, we think that our nature is to enjoy within this world. So we don't know anything different. But when one tastes the enjoyment, or taste giving Krishna enjoyment, then one no longer wants this, right? So so going back to Godhead, as being explained here, right? It means the service of Yudhishthira Maharaj as an eternal associate of Krishna. His desire to go back home, back to Godhead, his decision, it's not based on wanting to, have some exchange with the Lord or want to, but it's to serve. It's his consciousness is absorbed in service. And by hearing about these different pastimes, the hearts, we become cleansed. And the more we desire to hear, the more we desire to chant, the more we desire to remember. And then we will be always in the association of Krishna. Do we have anyone have any questions or comments that they want to bring out that may have been missed?
Thank you, Bala Nitai, for speaking and giving time to this pastime. You just came back from Yatra, so your mind must be absorbed in the pastimes of Bhagwan and his dear devotees. So thank you for taking the time to reflect on this.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Does anybody have questions, comments, reflections?
Something that maybe inspired you in the purport, or something that I didn't bring out.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. The
Hare
one
Krishna.
thing that really inspired me was the quote that you mentioned from the purport, like how Prabhupada mentions Namadi. Like that's the first. Nama is Adi, the first process of beginning. I think that was, I really inspired by that. Thank you.
Yes. Sri Krishna Namadi, by chanting the holy names in the form, qualities, and pastimes, manifest on their own within the heart, that the holy name is non-different than the named, than Krishna, and contains all of these, the form, qualities, and pastimes, and by associating with Nam, they all become revealed in time. When one sadhu, he said, like, it's like a seed, right? You have a seed, that seed contains the entire tree, right? We know that one pastime where Narada Muni is talking with the cobbler, and the cobbler is giving the example that the big banyan tree is one seed, and in that one seed, there are many other banyan trees, right? So, if you compared the holy name to a seed, and then by planting that seed within the heart, the name form, the form, qualities, and pastimes sprout and begin to manifest. They're not different; they're the same. Thank you for bringing that out. Yeah, very nice. Anybody else? Or anything else, Mataji? Hopefully I
No,
didn't
that's
cut
it.
you off.
Thank you, Prabhu. The following, the explanation that you gave, how quoting a pastime of the cobbler is very apt and is very inspiring. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for these beautiful words. Before I share my reflections, I have one question. Can you go back to the verse, Prabhu, today's word? So the last line, Nibrit Atma, lonely and alone. My question.
Yeah. What
So
about it? Yeah. Okay.
internal absorption, like when we see that lonely and alone, and how can I take that? I mean, excluding external distractions and responsibilities, and Yudhishthira is doing an internal absorption and remembering Krishna's instructions. Is that the meaning?
Well, unfortunately, Srila Prabhupada, he's not bringing that point out in the actual verse, so at least I'm not seeing it. So it's hard. I'm not a Sanskrit scholar, so I don't know anything about Sanskrit other than, that it's a transcendental language. So I'm not quite sure how it exactly fits in. Let me see if Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, this one will take some time to load, I think. Sorry. And his commentary might bring it out in some way. Let's see how does it translate it here. Hearing the arrangements of the Lord in the proper situation of the Yadu dynasty, without others knowing, Yudhishthira Maharaj fixed his mind on attaining Krishna's abode. So, I don't think he brings it out either. So, here we go. Means that Nirbhritam Atma means that their thinking was not revealed to others. The Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur is talking about it being that it's not known by others. So lonely and alone, I don't know. I can't begin to explain why Srila Prabhupada translated it like that and Vishnu Chakravarti translated the way he did, but from the way, because Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur explains why he's bringing it out in that way, is that they didn't broadcast, that's at least from how I'm reading it, that they did not broadcast that this is what we're doing. That's what he decided within his heart, that the Pandavas decided at that point that, okay, now our pastimes are also done here. Like, we were here to serve Krishna in the Yadu dynasty, and they've all gone. So it's time for us to go too. And at this point, we'll see how their transition in the later chapters coming up will be Yudhishthira. Will be them leaving their post and all that stuff. Does that help?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you. Thank you.
I don't know if anybody else who is more learned and has a better explanation, please share. Or if somebody has something else.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. So many references from Sri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and took us on a journey of a summary of Sri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and the 5 potent limbs of Bhakti. It was a very nice start to the Sunday program. Thank you so much.
Anything you want to bring out in the verse, Prabhu?
No, Prabhuji. I think you've covered all the points.
Anybody else would like to? Go ahead, please, bro. Go ahead, Bala Nitai, Prabhu.
Oh, so devotees can make one note. If there was more time, I was going to read some purports from Srila Prabhupada on 10th canto, chapter 3. The purports in 38, it was 37, 38 are one verse together. And 38 and 39, he kind of elaborates and talks about similar aspects of this that he was talking about in the morning walk, and how the holy name, Lord Chaitanya came to give the holy name for us fallen souls in Kali Yuga, and that by chanting it, that it will help us. That is, by chanting the holy name, we will understand and realize our eternal identity. We will be able to associate with Krishna through our eternal spiritual identity. That this is the power of the holy name and what Lord Chaitanya came to give us. Despite our fallen condition in Kali Yuga, Lord Chaitanya is so merciful that he invested so much potency within the holy name that we can understand, give up our false identification with the body, and understand our eternal relationship with Krishna and engage in seva based on that relationship. It's very, very wonderful two purports packed with so much nectar. So devotees, if you feel inspired to understand some of those aspects of our process, read 10 chapters, Canto 10, Chapter 3, verse 38 and 39 purports. It's very similar to the morning walk, but I'm reading that chapter, so I came across it and it was like, oh, it's like I was reading there. So anyway, yeah, that was all. Any last things? Jai Sachinanand Prabhu, you have something you want to add?
It was interesting how you brought in Janmani Janmaneshwari, Vatadakdevaitakritva. If I was reading this purport while you were also reading it, if you scroll down to the end of the purport, I thought there was something very interesting where Srila Prabhupada says, if you look at where it says the members of the Yadu family, it's the fifth line from bottom. We're engaged in supplementing the pastimes of the Lord are no other than his eternal associates. And so
here?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so also Maharaj Yudhishthira and his brothers, etc., since the appearance and disappearance of the Lord and his eternal associates are transcendental. So reading that was, I think, the jiva in the material world is the Tushta Shakti, right?
Yeah.
And the jiva in the spiritual world also remains the Tushta Shakti. That's the nature of a jiva. But the difference is by engaging in bhakti, which is Bhagwan's Antaranga Shakti, the jiva in the spiritual world gets invested with that chit or internal or Antaranga Shakti. And so at that point, then that jiva has, like Srila Prabhupada mentions throughout this verse, like the sun appearing and disappearing, because that jiva does not have a material body. He has a transcendental body, appears and disappears like Bhagavan. I thought that was very interesting because that there's conscious, whether it's in the material world or the spiritual world, but that consciousness, when it gets invested with bhakti, which is Antaranga Shakti, then that in that situation, when the jiva has this permanent investure of Antaranga Shakti, then the jiva is permanently in the spiritual world. And therefore, like Bhagavan, that jiva can appear and disappear like Bhagavan, in and out of the material and spiritual world. I found that very profound. That little sentence that Srila Prabhupada put in there, I found that very interesting. So because bhakti is none other than the Antaranga Shakti or the Chit Shakti of Bhagavan. So by engaging in that and fixing that permanently, then the jiva is essentially at that point, getting a quality race similar to Bhagavan, of course, remaining tatashta, and essentially attaining the spiritual body, so they can also appear and disappear like Bhagavan, even though they're eternally in the spiritual world.
Very nice.
I think that has some profoundness to it.
Yeah.
And it's like when a jiva who achieves that full investure of Bhagavan's Antaranga Shakti through bhakti, which is not different from Antaranga Shakti, then goes and can go to spiritual existence, whether in this world or in the spiritual world. The jivas, the Nitya said that jivas in the spiritual world do not distinguish them. Anyways, I found that last couple of sentences with a lot of depth in it and understanding, tattva of a jiva, who's the tishta here and who's the tishta in the spiritual world, but by the associates, where he says that members of the Yadu family were engaged in supplementing the pastimes of the Lord. That means they were invested with Antaranga Shakti and they could come and disappear like Bhagavan. So I thought that was very deep. I thought it's also very interesting, even in the first canto, Shri Vyasadeva tries to really clarify a proper understanding of Bhagavan's appearance and disappearance, even though it doesn't come as until later, like the 11th and 12th cantos. So he's making sure that when we read these pastimes, that we understand it's not a real disappearance at all. And Srila Prabhupada takes pain in this part to explain that.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. And the Janmani Ishvare, yes, one way is to, I think, understand that whether, our consciousness should be turned towards Bhakti Devi and the means of pleasing Bhagwan. But I think another way one can think it is, okay, if somebody has that mood that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving, then that perfected being can appear here or in the spiritual world and do the same thing, which is give pleasure to Bhagwan. Anyways,
Yeah, very nice. Thank you for bringing that point out. Yeah, doesn't he say something? Yeah,
like in the Pushta Krishna conversation, Pushta Krishna Prabhuji's conversation, you brought that out, where Srila Prabhupada emphasized, that the goal is not, simply to go to heaven, Swarga conception.
yeah.
The goal is to somehow or other please Bhagavan.
Yes.
And it's very interesting that in the material world, we're all dependent upon Bhagavan, right? In the mercy of Bhagavan. But in the spiritual world, Bhagavan becomes dependent on the mercy of the Nitya-Siddha.
Yeah. And the exchanges of love.
Yeah. So it's,
It all seems to go together, where in order to understand the Lord, we have to engage in seva.
Right. Yeah. Because it occurs by His mercy that we receive bhakti. We were discussing this in our Canto 10 discussion group that, Bhagavan's Sarup is Adni Shakti, is bhakti. And Bhagavan is the giver of bhakti, or the manifestation bhakti within a jiva. And then Bhagavan is own bliss experiences by experiencing the bhakti within the jiva. Well, this is explained in Bhakti Sandarbha by Shri Jiva Goswami, like where he's highlighting the potency of bhakti to attract Bhagavan and Amrish Maharaj's pastime in particular.
Yeah, it's all very, very deep.
There's no limit.
There is no limit. There really isn't. That's why it's called a drop from the ocean. Lord Chaitanya was explaining to Sanatana and Rupa Goswami. He said, this is just one drop. We're getting one drop from the ocean of understanding of Krishna.
Yeah.
And bhakti. Bhakti Rasamrita saying, just one little bit.
But that drop is so deep.
Yeah.
Contains it's like rainwater is the ocean, right? Evaporated, so it contains the ocean.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear about your experiences in Yatra, but maybe
let's do it on the side. On the side.
We can be there by your experience too.
Yeah. Different platform maybe. Not during the class that's already over. So I would love to. Yeah. Love to share whatever experiences I've had.
Maybe you can give a Sunday feast class at some point when you feel comfortable and back to your usual routine. So devotees can be registered too. Okay, so I guess we can end, or does anybody else want to elaborate? Okay. Manchakalpatribhishcha Kripasandhavyacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namah. Prabhupada ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai.
Prabhupada ki jai, and Antikoti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Thank you all so much for giving me your association.
Thank you for giving the association. Okay, please come to temple. I think today is, for those of you that can't, today is, I think Mother Prabhu is going to explain the second part of pastime of demons in Krishna Lila, so that it prepares us to understand the drama that's coming up next month. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.